Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. We are waking the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. What if the greatest act of bravery isn't facing your fears, but choosing to confront your deepest truth, one that could change everything you believe about yourself? Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the incredible authors of one of our newest books. This one is called How to Be Brave: Self-Healing Tools for Love Warriors. And I'm going to show you a little sneak peek of this cover as we get started today. You guys, this was a really special project. I got to meet with many of our authors for a writer's retreat this past May. It was an incredible experience where we got to come together and be together. And then we went home and we created this incredibly powerful book. And I want to introduce who I have in my Zoom room to you today. Angel Rohrer is an expert transformational coach who helps her clients battle their fears by reprogramming the mind, body, and soul through shadow work and shamanism. Scott Holmes coaches professional men and women to establish new foundations through quantum energy healing. And Tiffany Thomas is with us. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist who helps others heal from abuse and grief in her private practice in Los Angeles. Welcome, everyone. What's happening? How are you guys?
Hello. Great to be here. Hey.
I'm really, really happy to have you all here with me today. And I'm excited about this book. Really, really excited. And I'm so honored and grateful to all of you and to all of our co-authors. You all poured your hearts and souls onto these pages. They're such gifts, and I can't wait to talk about it today. Angel, you're going to start the party off. What's the why behind this chapter? Why the Brave book for you?
Well, I have written in several of your books already. And when this one came up and the artwork came out and what was happening in my life at the time, you know, when the universe lines up all those three things, you can't not say yes. So part of it for me was really trying to get the message out about the word no. And, you know, humans struggle with boundaries. And I'm trying to bring a deeper understanding around we don't just need physical boundaries, we need emotional boundaries, spiritual boundaries, all these other boundaries that come in the different realms that we have inside our body, feelings in the mind, mental and physical. So for me, writing this chapter about that, not only can you say no, it can be sacred and right from your soul. And it's just a deeper level of what no means.
This is so important. So, okay, you know, for our listeners, for our readers, I think that a lot of people understand boundaries. They understand a lot of the times that they need better ones, and they learn the hard way. So, in terms of you and what you wrote and the experiences you went through, what do you think is the most important thing about boundary setting that you want people to know? What's your golden nugget?
You're allowed to own your truth. You're allowed to have your story. And you're allowed to say no. All three of those things sit very deeply in your heart, and you know it. And it is the process and the practice of speaking it and feeling it and owning it. You're allowed to say no, you're allowed to mean it, and you're allowed to maintain the boundaries.
So, what if I'm in my head about that and the what ifs are coming in? and really just using, again, maybe a personal example or how you did it, like that's a pretty big, real feeling in my body. And a lot of the times it paralyzes me. So it's a lot easier for me to just zip my lips and not say anything and shove that down somewhere. But you and I both know why that isn't a good idea. What else do you want to tell us about that?
Well, our brain is here to protect us, but I think some people forget that so is our heart, you know? And so our heart also has coherence. Our heart also has it will tell our bodies what is right and what is wrong, what is our sacred yes, what is our sacred no. And so I think coming back deeper into your body and developing that trust and that connection within your physical body and what's happening, having that connection deeper allows you to understand what your truth actually is. Your body will tell you what your truth is if you listen, but humans have disconnected from that piece within themselves. So the practice is just that. Keep practicing. What does my no feel like? What does my yes feel like? Some people use like a red light, green light kind of scenario. You need to find some way to communicate with your body to understand what your yes means and what your no means.
Oh my gosh, the way that we kicked this interview off is just it turns me on, y'all, because the golden nuggets of awareness that you're getting, even just from Angel's description of this, are huge. So I hope you're paying attention. But body awareness is everything. Awareness is everything, and you're going to continue to hear these nuggets of wisdom today from our experts. Angel, thank you so much for saying yes to this project.
Thank you for the invite.
So, Tiffany, I would love to hear your why, like why yes to the Brave book.
Yeah, so I wrote chapter 18, which is called The Unseen Subtleties of Abuse, Safety Planning Your Way to Freedom. And I wanted to share my story because I think there's still a lot of information out there about abusive relationships or domestic violence. And the idea is still very much around physical abuse, or it's name calling. There's a very limited scope of understanding, I think. And when I share my story, I talk about the buildup over years, the nuances of control and manipulation and isolation and not being able to sleep because I'm woken up to be forced to have a conversation. And at the time of going through the relationship, I had actually worked at an agency that had a domestic violence program. And I had first of all, I didn't know that that's what I was experiencing. And I didn't know all the resources and things that were available that could have possibly helped me to get out sooner or get out safely sooner. So I felt it was super important to share my story and be able to educate people and help them not feel so alone, and just arm them with the tools that are out there.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you just dropped a couple and you went really fast. So I'm going to rewind back to one that I heard. You know, you weren't sleeping. You were being woken up and forced to have a conversation. Oh my gosh. So some people might be just saying to themselves, well, so what? Like it was important to the person. So they want it right. So can you help me understand why some of those types of things, like what do I need to be aware of there?
Yeah, that's so interesting you brought that up. I was just having an experience on Friday about this topic, and I was sharing, I didn't share that it was my story, but I was sharing what happened to me. And the people I was telling kind of laughed like it wasn't that bad, or I was joking almost. And I was like, wow, people forget that there's the context of it that I think you're speaking to is the intention of that behavior is to intimidate, it's to create fear, it's to create a controlling environment. And when you add that piece in, it's horrific, it's devastating. It's not just someone who really wanted to talk about something, there's a whole other level to what's going on.
For your journey, I would imagine part of it was getting to the point where you could really trust your own gut or intuition and be brave enough to like take action when you knew, Angel and I were talking about body awareness. So and you know the language, you figured it out, but then taking action at that point. Can you help me there too?
Yeah, I think I had gotten to a point where I found myself locking myself in the bathroom, crying on the bathroom floor, just not wanting to even be alive anymore. And I had just had this pivotal moment of enough is enough. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, but I'm going to start walking away. I'm going to start closing that door. I'm going to start locking that door until I found the words to be able to say, I'm not doing this anymore. It was almost like I had to act before I could speak it.
Yes, thank you. Um, I really I'm really grateful for your chapter. I'm grateful for the courage that you had to tell the story and also to really give some opportunities for our readers to have tools that they may not have had before, or just, you sharing your example already will give somebody permission to do something slightly differently. And I just think it's so, so important. And I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for saying yes to this.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely not what I thought I was going to write about.
I remember having that conversation
Yes.
and you kind of switching it up and switching your mind. And when I saw that, it also ties into other pieces in the book, and I got excited. I'm like, okay, here it is. But yeah, you got to love the little surprise that the universe gives you about what you're going to write about, right?
For sure.
Um, okay, Scott, tell us your why. Why yes to the Brave book? And listen, you've been back for several projects as well, and I thank all of you for being in our projects. But Scott is what you're, I think, a 7-time
7.
offender. I don't know.
Yeah, I am. I'm a
Okay,
7-time offender.
there we go.
You asked about going to New York, and that retreat was absolutely over the top, amazing. I went in with a certain idea of what I wanted to do in the book, and it absolutely threw me for a loop. I left that, and I spent a week trying to figure out what I was going to write. So I came up with embodied presence. You don't need to change. Awareness is the problem. It's a common theme between the three of us. And I really think it comes down, for me, it came down to coming back into myself, understanding myself. So for so many years, I suppressed the feelings, right? You just keep pushing them, pushing. It was like a trash compactor. And I wasn't aware of them. And then when I had to deal with the emotions, I had no idea how to deal with them. I didn't, the changes they made in my body, the pain, where they came from, I couldn't name them. I couldn't express them. So all my life I was told, keep them down, keep them down. Don't do that. Don't speak in anger. Don't talk about shame. Don't be vulnerable. Don't do any of that. And so I was always in my head. That journey from here to here is a 1,000,000-mile journey. I don't know for most people, but for the most of the men that I've dealt with and most of the men that I've talked to, that's a large journey, because we're told you don't listen to this because that makes you vulnerable, that makes you weak. And what I found in doing all this work that I've done with you, with all the writing, and all these pieces, by the way, for anyone who reads them, they're cathartic for the writer. You change. You go into places that you don't normally go to, and you bring those out. And what happens is you change because of the writing. You're able to express things that you may not have even thought about, the things that come up. When I was writing some of these chapters, I told my girlfriend, I'm not here for the next week. And she'd look at me. I said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to write. I'm going back. And all those emotions that came up. And instead of pushing them down, instead of ignoring them, instead of pushing them away, I felt into them. And all of a sudden, they didn't become as overwhelming as they used to be. I could talk about them. I could express them. And I could embody them. They are part of my story. But they aren't who I am now. They're just where I came from, where I was born, how I was raised. Okay, we all can tell that story. But now we can tell the story about who we are. Embody who you are by opening your heart and really seeing yourself in the mirror for the first time as you really are. Not as you want to be, not as you hope to be, not as you're told you should be, but as who you are, and really fully embracing it and loving it.
Well, as you all can tell, we talk about some big potato stuff around here. Scott is a perfect example. And I love that your chapter actually even has the word awareness in it, because I think what everybody is doing with their chapters is that. And when we have deeper awareness, we have life-changing moments of healing and transformation and all of the things. I'm going to actually get right into a question about awareness next. So it was great that Scott started talking about it. It's perfect, actually. I think that we talk about it a lot, and people are like, what are they talking about? Like, what if I was going to look in your window and see you in the practice of awareness, your practice of connecting to something bigger than you, connecting to your higher self, connecting into your essence, we are all going to have that's going to be a different view for all of us. We're going to have different practices, different things that we do. And I know you're all going to want to tell me about 10 of them, but I'm going to ask you to pick one. And Tiffany, I'm going to start with you for this. What's one way that you connect like that? Practice your awareness.
I would say the most important one to me is by going out in nature and just not having distractions. I had this experience yesterday. I went for a hike. I was listening to music, and then my headphones died. And all of a sudden, I was just listening to the leaves and the birds. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was not present the last hour. I've just been, whatever I'm processing in my head. And I have to remember that. I have to remember that I need to take the time to not distract myself and connect and listen to my body. How am I feeling? Check in with myself emotionally as a therapist. Like, that's what we try to teach people to do. And I can't tell you how many, almost every one of my clients, they come in and they go, I don't know how I feel. And it's because they don't take the time throughout the week to take 15 seconds to, and I'm like, this is why. This is your hour to figure out how you feel and what's going on in your life. So that's a little bit of what I do.
This one is so important. I remember back to my marathoning days, and I would always tell people back then that my long runs, the training runs, were my meditation. But there was a point in time where I realized I was just in my head for sometimes a couple of hours, and I wasn't listening to the birds or feeling the breeze in my face or even feeling my body that was doing this amazing thing that it was doing, running like that. And I love that you say that, because of course, music can actually be a connection tool, certain kinds of sound healing and music. And you all know, because you've used that beautiful modality. But I think that can also sometimes be a distraction. And so we need to feel into what we really need in the moment, right? But nature, Tiffany, all day long, nature for me too. I love that. So Scott, how about you? I'm going to get right back to you now about this awareness thing. So, you started talking about it earlier, and it's so important. If we were going to just have a peek at one of your practices, what would that look like?
The one that I that I use most with most of my clients, and I do religiously. Every morning I wake up, and you do this too, because I know every morning you get up and you get out. But I get down on my yoga mat. Well, I have a rug that I bought in India that I use for yoga. I just get down, lotus, and for 20 minutes, I listen. The cat comes up, rubs against me. I hear the breeze outside. I hear the neighbor getting in the car. I stay very present, but also I'm asking the question, what is it for me to do today? What is it I need to do? A lot of times in that quiet moment, someone will come in. I need to connect to this person or this person, all those connections that we have, and just opening it up and staying really, really close to who I am, listening to my body. Your body tells you an awful lot. I think we all know that. We ignore it most of the time, but it tells us a lot. And that practice, just that 15 to 20 minutes first thing in the morning, changes my entire day. If I get up late and I can't do it, my day is chaotic. I'm not sure where I'm going. And, it just kind of gets out of whack. But I can always reset. Take that 10, 15 minutes. Okay, that's where I am. And it centers. And that small practice can change the outlook of your entire day. Just that awareness. Because we think of awareness as, hyper awareness sometimes. But really, it's just that quiet time that allows you to come out.
For sure. That's a miracle morning, right? These are that idea of the miracle morning, because they're setting the energy and intention for the whole rest of your day. And that's why those authors talk about that in those books, those miracle morning books, because how we do that first hour, right, is really going to set a foundation. And I love that one as well. I love my morning time, and my journaling time is really what I do. So Angel, how about you on this one? What's one of your practices?
Well, one of my most powerful practices, and it's actually the tool that I put in this chapter, is mirror work. We spend so much time trying to feed ourselves externally, when all that we actually need is right here in our heart. And so why not connect to yourself? So, and with how society has been programmed, the mirror is not our best friend. Well, I challenge that. The mirror actually is your best friend, because if you have you, that's all that matters. Then you start looking externally. So, and if you've never done it, it can be right from just passing by and looking at yourself, if you need to start there. But I spend time meditating and connecting with myself and cheerleading myself, because it has to come within first before you can even accept it from the outside. So mirror work is very, very powerful practice.
It is powerful and profound, and wasn't easy for me when I first got introduced to it. It was opposite of easy. It was like staring into my own eyes really was a moment. What is that for people, do you think?
I think that people sometimes are scared to see what's actually there. And that's why they keep themselves so busy. Tiffany said it so beautifully when she's like, people use the hour with me to navigate their feelings. People are scared to navigate their feelings by themselves. So to be able to sit and hold space for yourself, looking at yourself, that's next level.
And all three of you are next level in my book, in this book, but in my book in general. And I love that you're sharing these moments of awareness. Discernment is a part of awareness, the discerning those feelings inside of you. And with awareness, you get a choice. We are talking about powerful things here. One small shift in perception, or one idea that you might have heard talked about today, could change your entire life. And the things that you all are talking about today are those things, really, really important things. And of course, I'm going to finish with a big one today, this question. Scott, what's the most important thing you want people to know about being brave?
Being brave is not about fear. In all honesty, being brave is about walking through what you know. It's just taking hold of who you are and taking one step, small step. I ask people to do that, one small step. When we change, we don't change dramatically in our lives. If somebody goes on a diet and loses 100 pounds, usually they bounce back and they gain 80, right? So if you lose a few pounds and your body acclimates and you acclimate and you can change, that's when bravery, no matter your situation, as long as you can make that change by being aware, by understanding, and having it consistent, having your habits become rituals. And the difference between a practice and a ritual, practice is, well, I put my keys in the same place every day. Well, sometimes I don't put it there, but then I don't know where it is. A ritual is placing the keys in the jar and seeing them and understanding they're there and being aware of that they're there. So that awareness changes it, habit to ritual. That's what helps you become braver by taking the next step. And then it changes your perspective with each step.
I could talk about this question all day long. That was a brilliant way to kick that off. Angel, how about you? What's your version of this? Like, what's the most important thing you want people to know about being brave?
That sometimes you just got to get out of your own way. Universe, show me this or better. Your limited mind cannot necessarily take you where you want to go. There has to be a level of surrender. There has to be a level of, okay, higher self, whatever you want to call that energy, show me this or better. You know this plan better than I do, and get out of your own way and drop into your heart, out of the ego, out of the mind, and allow your body, allow the energy that animates these bodies to do what they're here to do. So that's my take on it. Get out of your own way, drop into your heart, show me this or better. That's my practice.
I love it. You're not saying this, but I'm going to assume so you can affirm it or not. But one of the keys for me was actually saying these things out loud.
Loud. Yes. Our words carry our intent into the physical plane. Get it out of your head and out of your mouth.
That was a big one for me, you guys. And if you're in your head about these things and you've been taught some cool practices, some affirmation practices, some claiming your beautiful life in the moment kinds of practices, saying it out loud sometimes it feels silly at first. You're not talking to anyone, but the energy of it is, oh, you're talking to the most important one, right? That there is, like, that is super powered manifesting right there. So
well, your tongue is a magic wand.
there we
so
go.
Use it wisely.
I like that. I might have to quote you there. Tiffany, you're going to close us out with this one. What's the most important thing you want people to know about being brave?
Gosh, I have so many thoughts about this question. When we met at the writers retreat, I remember one of the first conversations I had with one of the authors there that I met. I was sharing with her about, these books and promoting them and promoting myself and being worried that like I would have too many things come my way and I wouldn't know how to navigate it. And I remember she said to me, she was like, why don't you just put it out there? And when it comes, then you decide. And I was like, what? Never crossed my mind. And I've always struggled with people saying that I'm brave. I travel alone. I go to other countries and people say I'm brave. And I always struggled with that. And through this process, I'm now taking more ownership of that adjective. But I think really kind of like what Angel was saying, it's about telling the truth. Um, it's it's about holding on to the idea that each time you do it, it does get easier. And there's a quote that I love. I don't know who said it, but it's on my Facebook somewhere. And so every year the memory pops up and reminds me, and it says, everything that you want is on the other side of fear. And I just love when I'm reminded of that because yeah, it just really resonates with me.
I would call those purpose-driven fears. And I love the way that you're talking about this. I love the way that all of you have talked about being brave in your own lives. When I had the book idea, first of all, to make it a collaboration was kind of like a duh, like, well, how come you haven't done that book yet, right? Because I've written books about fear and being brave. But when I really thought about it, I thought that, of course, we need all of your very unique voices, not only your stories, but your tools also, because there isn't one way to feel brave. And one of the other authors said, you're brave because you survived. And like that one sentence changed a lot of things in my head about it. And another one, Tiffany said it too just now. Someone else said, I don't like when people call me brave because that's not how I feel brave. Like it wasn't aligning with me. They were, calling me, and I thought, all right, all right. Um, so thanks to all three of you. Thank you, Scott and Tiffany and Angel. Thanks for being in the project. Thanks for saying yes. Thank you for what you do in the world. And thank you for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So this is way more than a book. This is a generous community of badasses, y'all. So I have everyone today hooked up with their websites and things down below. Please go explore. Go see what they're up to. You might have a question after today, or you're just craving to continue the conversations that we started. We could have talked for hours on any one question that we had today. Maybe you need support. So that is what we're here for. This community is incredible. And we'll go beyond the book into helping people who are reaching out for that support, maybe to ask a question. I don't know, maybe you got some goosebumps over something that someone said today. So I hope you'll check them out. And of course, you can join us for the book launch party that's coming up October 24th. We're going to have a blast. I have the information for the Zoom down below if you'd like to join us. And head over to Amazon because How to Be Brave is ready for your purchase. And we can't wait to see how you love that book. Lastly, today, everyone, remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.